Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am so excited about my guest today. We have Senator Brian Strickland and his wife, Lindsey. They will be joining us momentarily, but we are on here just for a few minutes before because I want to spotlight one of my power partners. I have Laquita Parks here, who is the founder of the publishing company Pay Pro V Publishing. So I want to give her a few moments to say a few words. And, we're just going to be talking a few minutes about, building a strong network and what that means and why it's important. So, Laquita, thanks for joining us here briefly, and want to give you the mic to share with the audience.
Well, thank you so much, Lachelle. It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I love collaborating. So you are one of my biggest collaborators, and I'm so excited to be a part of your team and have you a part of my team. So I am Laquita Parks with Pay Pro V Publishing, and what we do at Pay Pro V is we help you take your story idea from a thought to a realization, and we hold your hand through the process. So it doesn't matter if you haven't started your story, we can help you. If you have started your story, we can help you take that to reality. And so it's exciting, the being partnered with somebody who, like yourself, who has, an array of knowledge and wisdom. It does not feel like I'm a one-woman army. Even though I have a team, that team works for me. But being a part of your team and being a part of a collaboration network lets you feel like you're not in it by yourself. So I like the fact that I'm able to, brainstorm with you, or if I have a business idea, I'm able to bring it to the team and they can say, oh, that's really good. Or you can say, Laquita, I think you need to go back to the drawing board on that one. So, and being able to connect with people who are like-minded and who have the same business goals in mind helps everybody to be successful. I always say, and I think you say that too, there's room at the table for all of us. So it's a great thing being a part of, our innovators group where, we're all doing our things individually, but collectively we have the same work ethics. We have the same networking mentality, and we want to see each one of us be successful. So I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited for Pay Pro V Publishing to, have a seat at the table.
I love that. And, I wanted you to come on because, you're right here in Georgia,
Yes.
so we have our senator who's coming, and just the idea of positivity. We have been in such a crazy time. I mean, people don't even know. I just don't even want to answer my phone half the time with all those calls that I got. So I just want to spotlight a business that is thriving here in Georgia, so we got to keep it in the community sometimes. So we just want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight, and let everybody know what do you have going on and how they can get a hold of you.
So we have a lot of things going on. We have a book that's coming out with someone who was a civil rights activist. Her name was Ethel Ray Nance. And there's a book that's coming out in February called My Father Poisoned Me. So, be on the lookout for that. But if you want to, if you have a story and you want to reach out to me or connect, you can reach me on my website. That's at www.payprov, and that's PAPROVI publishing.com. And, take a look at what we got going on and reach out to me and I can help you with that story.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm going to put you back in the green room, so to speak. Want to thank you so much for coming, and I encourage everybody to reach out to you.
Thank you.
All right. So we are going to be joined right now with Senator Brian Strickland and his wife, Lindsey. So just a little background. We met over a year ago. We both were passionate about helping in the community. We partnered on a golf tournament with Giving Back for Communities and Schools. So I'm excited to see him and his wife. She was expecting at the time. And just glad to catch up with them and see how things are going with them here in Georgia, because it's been crazy, y'all. So at this time, I am going to bring them on. Hey guys.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're good. You hear the dog in the background. We planned to be at my office and have a perfect setting for you, but we have our 3-year-old got sick, and so we didn't have any childcare options today. So you truly caught us at a real moment here at our house in our kitchen. So it may be the 3-year-old may join us in a minute, or maybe the 1-year-old will crawl in here in a minute too.
You know what? It's all good because I know all about the kids and having them home. I just had a little minor meltdown right before we got on the call, so it happened. So first, I want you to take the time to introduce everybody to you and just tell us what life is like right now for you guys. I had mentioned a little bit that, I don't even want to see a phone sometimes because of all those calls I got here in Georgia, but just tell everybody where you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, Lindsey, go first.
Well, I'm Lindsey, Brian's wife, and we have 2 little boys, the most important things in our lives. Charles Willis, who's 3, and Beecher, who's 1. They are obviously the most important things to us, and everything that we do really revolves around them, their future, and how we can make it better for children in our state. Brian has been a senator for how long now?
My 5th year, I think, in the Senate now.
Yeah. So he's in public service, but I also work in state government. I've worked in government since I graduated from school. I started working in Washington, D.C. for a congressman, and then came down and worked for Governor Deal. And now I'm government relations for the Georgia World Congress Center Authority. So Brian and I both are deeply involved in politics, just kind of in 2 different ways. But, as his wife, I take a lot of pride in everything that he does and the policies that he stands for and all the community service that we do together as a family, set a good example for our kids. And then I'll let Brian talk about himself a little bit.
Yeah, and so I'm Lindsey's husband, Brian. She started off saying she was my husband, so my wife. But that little first, of course, and as she mentioned, we have 2 beautiful little boys, 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. You probably hear in the background too, and so we're very blessed. I'm starting my 3rd term in the state Senate. I was in the House before that for 3 terms. And locally, I also practice law here in McDonough at a firm. And so I'm up at the state capitol. I'm trying cases at the courthouse. But definitely interesting times for all of us, like everybody else. I mean, the last year has been very interesting for all of us. And at the state level, right now, COVID continues to be the number one thing we're dealing with. I love that now a year later, we're talking about getting the vaccine out at least finally. And so for us trying to go through session, we're mandated by our Constitution to be up there for 40 days. And we always space out those 40 days. We're mandated to at least pass the budget. And so we're in the process trying to get our budget done right now. And testing has been the key for us. We are tested for COVID-19 every Monday and every Thursday. And so with that, we make sure we don't bring it back to the Capitol on starting the week off on a Monday. Make sure you don't bring it back home on the weekend from leaving the Capitol. Because one of the things that you think about with us, you have 56 senators and 180 House members, and we could be a super spreading group by ourselves. You put us all in one building and send us out across the state. And so it's been very difficult for us managing that, to be honest with you, though. In the Senate, every test we have, somebody else is positive. And so we're constantly trying to always, of course, wearing our mask and socially distance while doing this job. But it's not unlike everybody else out there who's working through this. You just got to go to work and get the job done the best you can to keep yourself and your family safe right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you guys and your service. And I think, a lot of people just look at the title, the role, and they don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, So I just want to say thank you for that. So for many of the viewers that are here in Georgia, what message do you want to share with them? Because so many people have anxiety about, small businesses or, the spread of the virus. Here in Henry County, our kids, they didn't return back to the hybrid model. They've been back to remote learning. So, what message, not that you have all the answers, but if you have an opportunity to give them a word, what would you like to share with them?
Well, I'll say, we know exactly what you're going through. You go to Washington, and it's easy for somebody in Washington to not be connected back home. It's a full-time job to be in Congress or the U.S. Senate. For all of us in Georgia, your legislature is part-time. And so when we're not up at the state capitol, we're back running our businesses with our families and our districts. And so we know exactly what everybody else is going through firsthand. We're dealing with that ourselves. We've all learned to adapt in the last year with COVID-19, and it's affected some people more than others. But I would say this, I know that we are finally turning the curve. While we've seen cases spike again earlier last month, we know that the vaccine's rolling out faster and faster. We're getting updates constantly from the governor. It's all about the supply that we get. And he's constantly telling us that we're lucky we're getting this many more supply this week. And so they're planning further out. We're hoping we can get to stage 1B for the vaccine the next couple of weeks. We're hopeful of that, if not sooner. And so it's just trying to be optimistic. So we understand that we're all in this together. We passed several pieces of legislation dealing with this issue directly as well at the state level. As you know, most of the funding, of course, comes from the federal government. And so trying to make sure folks can get access to the resources that are there. Dealing with the Department of Labor, which has been a challenge for everybody in the last year or two. And so a lot of times we find ourselves as that liaison for people to their federal government as well. And there is the baby. You want to grab him? He may join us.
That's okay.
But, and politically, too, this is Beecher. You want to say hello, Beecher?
Oh,
Hey.
Oh, how cute.
And don't judge. He is still in his pajamas. But
hey, look, I got on pajama pants, okay? So
probably we're not, right? But I'll say this, too. I think politically is such just a difficult time for everybody. It seems like our country is more divided than ever. I don't see that every day at the state capitol, though. In the state capitol, I see Republicans and Democrats coming together. We don't always agree with everything. We disagree amongst each party on things as well. But what I love about Georgia in particular, we come together. You'll see a budget that we all vote on together. It passed unanimously, something we all buy in on. Probably 99% of legislation that hits the floor is going to have Republicans and Democrats on it and looking for real reforms in our state. We just don't get all the attention. All the attention goes to what's happening in Washington, D.C. So if you turn your TV on or you read the paper, you look on social media, you think the world's falling apart. We're all at each other's throats. But I don't see that as much at the state level in Georgia, at least.
I love that. And so this question's for you, Lindsey, as a spouse who is supporting somewhat of a first responder. I mean, there's this so many levels that, he is responsible for. Just being in this political climate. What advice would you give to other spouses who have to support their spouses doing such a role as what he's doing and maintaining a family?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that question. Brian and I have always operated as a team. In fact, when we met, we were both working in government, and I never wanted to marry anybody that would not support, my goals and my career. And so when he made a decision to run for House and then run in Senate, it was a family decision because we know that it's a big sacrifice to both of our careers with the time, and we didn't have children at the time. But we knew we wanted to start a family. And so I said, you know what, you can't do this by yourself. I'm going to be here to help you. And we just got to learn time management, priorities, and kind of go from there. Last year, I had a great opportunity. I was selected by fellow legislative spouses to serve as the legislative spouse chair of the General Assembly. So that's both House and Senate spouses, male and female, from all over the state. And what that group has done in the past is they hold certain events for the spouses during the legislative session to just kind of come together and talk with one another. It's not a partisan group. It's everybody all together. And it's always been a really awesome community to be in because you can kind of share war stories and support each other and give each other advice. But we kind of took the charge last year, working with First Lady Marty Kemp on helping her with her human trafficking initiatives. And we got started, thankfully, before COVID hit. And then towards the end, it affected us, doing a lot of the events we wanted to do. But we worked in our communities all across the state to collect items for the trafficking victims in a lot of the facilities that are across the state. We had people come speak to us to educate us on a lot of different issues, not just human trafficking. And then we did some fun things for our kids, too. I just think it's vitally important for a spouse of an elected official, whether that be on the local level, state, or federal level, to be supportive of your spouse in that role. You're there to keep them accountable. You're there to keep them grounded. You're there to remind them that what they're doing affects children's lives and their future. And I enjoy that role. I enjoy being there for Brian. You know, we bounce ideas off of each other a lot, and we don't agree 100% of the time on issues either, but it's good to it's good for him to hear the perspective of someone else, of a female, of a mom, of a working mom. And I think that, I think it helps him in making decisions. So I
love that. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good insight, because so many people, you know, they just see the outside, you know, and they're just like, oh, they've got it all together. I mean, I go through that a lot having 15 children. They're like, oh, you must be so organized. I'm thinking, what? I just stepped over some shoes right before I got on this call. You see what I'm saying? It happens. Yeah. But I guess I would ask next, you know, what routines or things do you guys make sure that you do in order to maintain the family unit? You know, because there is a lot of people that are like, oh, you're somewhat of a celebrity, you know, because of your position or things like that. How do you keep that balance, you know, and that grounding in spite of all that goes on?
So to me, it's making sure that you, of course, you value your weekends. You also value your nights during the week. I try, personally, there's something every night you could be at, especially during the legislative session. There's a lot of stuff that happens after we get out of session at night, a lot of events to go to. Even during COVID, there's a lot of that. But I make sure that at least 4 days a week that I try to come home and be here for the bath time, because that's the one thing. These boys, every day is the same in some sense. And at 7 o'clock, they're ready to go upstairs and get their baths. Mm-hmm. And at the age we have right now, of course, down the road, we'll have all these sports and stuff to run to. But right now, having the consistency in their lives is important. And so for us, we try to coordinate every Sunday night. I say, okay, what do you have this weekend? What nights do you have things going on? Because she has events she has to go to as well. But we try our best to both be here at least those 4 nights a week if we can. Sometimes it's all 5 nights. Sometimes we can't do even the 4. And then the weekends, making sure you truly value that time. We both have jobs like most people. With your phone, it can never stop. Like, there's not an ending. There's not a point where you're done for the day. And so turn that off and force yourself to get away from it, especially on the weekends. But as you see with kids, as you know, too, they force you to do that as well. You know, they're going to get sick when they get sick. They're going to want to do things they want to do. And as they get bigger, especially, it's going to be that way. That's right. And so they help keep you grounded as well. But I think it's just trying to make yourself keep that balance. Sometimes you have to work to keep that balance, of course.
You know, and I'll add to it, we're really fortunate to live in a district that's only 30 miles south of the state capital in Atlanta. So Brian's able to commute back and forth. And my job is in downtown as well. So there's a lot of legislators out there that are from South Georgia, that are from Waycross or up in Blue Ridge, and they don't have the luxury of going home. I will say, you know, there are a lot more younger legislators now than there has been in the past. And so there are a lot more working families. And I think, you know, people, when I say people, folks that want to meet with the legislators, folks that want, like, lobbyists and other organizations. And you kind of set the tone in your own office. Like with Brian's admin, they know number one is Brian's family. And he's not going to stay at the Capitol till 7:30 at night to meet with a bunch of lobbyists. Just not how he operates. You can, you know, schedule him when he's available, and he has certain blocks of time where he's going to meet with constituents and do phone calls, answer emails. You have to organize yourself that way, or you can't handle it all. And I brag on him. He's the best dad in the world. And I wouldn't say that I truly didn't feel that way, because I can't really my emotion very well. But last year, Charles Willis, our 3-year-old, it was Dads with Donuts Day. And Brian had a bill on the Senate floor. And I was like, you're not going to be able to make it. You know, he's 3. He won't remember. Brian went, and he had donuts with Charles Willis in Hampton, and then left the school and went straight to the Capitol to present his bill on the floor. And he got it all done. And I mean, only God could have made the way for him to go up there and be there in time, and then be there for his son. So it's not easy, but you make it work. You figure it out together.
I love that. You know, and it's speaks to knowing what your values are it's like, hey, there are no excuses. We're just going to make it work. And it just happens that way. You got to have that mindset. So that leads us to the next point about, what are some things that you guys do in order to stay in the right mindset? Like I said, we had robocalls, we had mail out of the wazoo about voting here, doing this, for Georgia. Then, we've got the controversy with wearing masks, not wearing masks, so much stuff going on. How do you guys keep a positive mindset?
I know for me, it's knowing when to turn the news off. I mean, that may sound bad, but at night, just like right now here, Mickey Mouse on there. We're gonna have Mickey Mouse on probably, or maybe Wheel of Fortune before we go upstairs. We watch a lot less news than I think we used to, because a lot of that, as I said earlier, is entertainment in my mind, and what sells is all the divisiveness you see on TV. And the same thing with social media. Man, that's been a big challenge because you need social media to reach out to people. It's important in our position to be available on there, but there's so much negativity. You can type anything you want about somebody. There's no consequences for that a lot of times on social media. And so knowing, I guess, when to unplug those things is important. We'll also say we both have families that are not political families. Neither one of our families has ever been in politics before. And so we're naturally grounded with the folks that we're around. They won't let us take ourselves that seriously, and they help us get away from that. We might both work in state politics to a certain extent, but everybody else we're around the rest of the time, they may ask about things at the Capitol, but it's not the number one thing going on in their minds that week as well.
Yeah, and also we have a really strong and great supportive church family here in McDonough Presbyterian Church. It's just such a wonderful family unit there, and they focus on family. And on Sunday mornings, it's nothing better than going and just sitting in the pew and hearing God's word and like shutting the noise out from everything else that's going on. And that keeps us grounded, and our kids keep us grounded. They don't know. This little kid does not know Daddy's a senator, and he doesn't care. He eats his Cheerios, and he wants to watch Mickey, and that's it. And he wants to wrestle with Daddy at night. So that's as well as our friends. They're like, "Oh, I saw your post on Facebook. How many likes this time?" They don't care. They're like, "Let's go to dinner. Let's hang out. Let's talk about life." And I'm so thankful for that too.
Yeah. I love that. That is so true. I mean, I tell that to people all the time. They give me compliments on videos and stuff that I do. And I'm thinking, my kids aren't thinking about that. This title, it's like, hey, you're just mom to me. So I definitely can relate to that. So how do you guys handle the pressure of, people just, one, thinking that you're a little young for the position that you hold, just, they could just think, you don't have enough wisdom or whatever the case may be. Do you find that happens at all?
I honestly, when I first ran for the House, it was actually before I even started dating Lindsey, and now Charles Wilson's going to join us, our oldest. So I will say though, then I was, of course, now he's getting jealous. Mommy's got Charles Willis.
Oh, hey. Which one is not feeling well? They both look fine.
Well, they're better today. You see his little runny nose still.
Oh, okay.
I'll answer this and take the boys now. I'll be back.
But I'll say, I guess there may have been a little bit of that when I first started because I was single. I was in my 20s. I was, pretty fresh out of law school. But I'll be honest, everybody was very accepting. Even people that have been around a long time at the state capitol, they were very willing to hear your point of view on things because everybody brings something different to the table, no matter your age or where you're from. Everybody has a different perspective. And so I have not seen that be a factor for me, honestly, if I'm being honest with you. And Lindsey, if you.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know the exact statistics, but I feel like our generation might be the majority of the population now. I'm 34, Brian's 37, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I love it. Look, I forget my kids' ages, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But I think it's really important for people our age and even younger to really start getting involved because we're having children. We're the future. We were raised by one of the greatest generations, in my opinion, and they've taught us a lot about being humble and saving and, being conservative and the values that we hold dear. But I think it's important to get younger people out there. And to me, as a mom, like, I want working moms to be involved in politics. You know, they need to know the struggles that we have. And Brian, being a young lawyer, like, he's not in here right now. He's young, but he is wise, and he is wise beyond his years. And he is a very patient, thoughtful decision maker. And I think he's kind of earned his stars at the Capitol at a young age. And you know, there's a lot of people out there that says, I'm just so sick of, you know, the old white men telling me what to do. And it's time to get the perspective of younger people out there and, you know, challenge the older folks who might have been stuck in their ways along the way. And I don't know, there's more and more younger people getting involved, so I don't feel like it's as big as an issue as it may have been in the past. And if there's anybody that challenges Brian's experience or him being young, I think he's countered that and proven himself since he's been up there in the years he's served.
I love that. And so, you know, I guess the question I would ask too, you know, we've had so much differences of opinion, you know, just here recently, and it seems like everything is just highlighted and magnified. So when it comes to communication, what tips would you give the community on how to communicate, you know, when you do have opposing views? And I know you guys experienced this at the Capitol. You know, you have two sides. So how do you work to come to a resolution? What are some strategies that we should think about when we come to the table about opposing views?
Well, I mean, it sounds very simple, but I think we forget that we should listen. I mean, we all have opinions. Everybody has some initial reaction to everything. And sometimes you think about it more, you get more dug in on that opinion. But what I found helps me is listening to somebody I disagree with. Because one, I might learn something. Or two, I might learn how they're approaching it in a way where I think they're looking at the wrong direction. And then once I see why they're looking at it that way, maybe I can help make them see my side. But more often than not, you find that common ground and realize they just have a different background than I have, a different way of looking at it. And most of the time, we all want the same things. You know, there are some people out there that want to go completely different directions on things. But for the most part, we all want the same thing. We just have different ways of getting there. And so as simple as it sounds, even at the state capitol, I found if we just listen and stop for a minute, and sometimes people just want to be heard. There's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that for years have thought they're not being heard, either in Washington or at the state capitol or their local governments. And so I think we've learned a lot from that the last few years. If you sit and listen to people sometimes and hear their side of their view on something, and maybe, like I said, maybe you'll learn something yourself.
I love that. Did you have something you wanted to add, Lindsey?
Well, I think we've had a really great opportunity living in the area that we live in. That's a very diverse area. I mean, Metro Atlanta is very diverse, and Henry County in particular. You know, we've got about almost equal, you know, Republican, Democrat. Well, we had equal representation, and so you don't have a choice but to work with one another. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, you've got to come up with a compromise. You're never going to make everybody happy, and that I tell myself that every day. And that's hard to do when you have people reaching out to you, constituents reaching out, angry about something, and you just want them to be happy. You're like, I'm trying so hard. I want to help you, but you know, you can't give everybody the answer they want to hear. You can't solve everyone's problem, but you can try, and you can try to reach a compromise with either side. And I think, you know, just watching Brian through the years, he's done a really great job with that. And that's why he's been reelected, quite honestly, is because he doesn't play the partisan politics. Because, I mean, look, we're all sick of that. I'm sick of that. He's sick of that. You're sick of that. I mean, I don't know anybody out there who loves it. I mean, especially right now, it's exhausting and it's painful. It's time for us to sit down and just start getting things done and quit playing with the politics and just compromise on issues, knowing that you're not going to solve every problem, you know, the way you think you should.
I love that. Yeah. So, I mean, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you guys, and I definitely feel like, you know, you're in my living room, literally. You know, when you got the kids around, it's like, I'm not even working. You know, we're having we're visiting like family. So my last question would be for both of you. What word would you like to leave the audience with, for you, Lindsey, as a first lady, so to speak, also a working mom, and the things that you juggle? What message would you like to leave with the community here in Georgia?
Well, mine's simple, and it's to love one another. After this election season and the pandemic, life's too short to get so angry and be so uptight and kind of stuck in your rut about whatever. It's time to really take a step back and focus on the things that are positive, and just treat each other with kindness. I mean, even if you disagree with someone, be kind to them and love them. And that's what we want to teach our children. And I think that's what everybody really needs to do today, so we can get through this struggle that we're doing. And it's hard. It's hard on everybody in so many different ways. But if we love one another, we can get through it, and we'll figure it out together.
So true. I mean, I feel like we've been given a crash course of life. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're learning a lot of things just jumping in head first. So I understand that. And what about you, Brian?
Well, I agree with everything she said. The only thing I'll add is I say enjoy the moment that we have. Enjoy the chaos that you have. That's the one thing that we've learned, especially in 2020. I said this before when COVID first hit, and it's because somebody said it to me and it kind of hit me, because I wasn't feeling this way at first. I was stir crazy, ready to go do something. We had to quarantine early on when we were exposed in the state Senate. And that was when we thought that this would be done by the middle of summer, right? And here we are in February the next year. But I learned over time, and I continue to try to learn, even days like today when you're trying to work from home with sick kids, not too sick as you saw, but we were sick.
That's good. They're feeling better. I know. Hey, that's good.
Yeah. But I think it's taking these moments and enjoy what we call the small stuff, because that's all it's going to matter one day when it's all said and done. And just for everybody else out there that following this, or especially follows politics, try to be more optimistic about the future, because those kids you just saw, they don't care about Republicans or Democrats. They're tired of all these fights that you're seeing play out with our generation, and they're gonna, I think, make this world a better place than we're making it right now. And so I'm trying to be more optimistic about the future as well.
I love that. Well, we just want to thank you guys so much for your time. It's so good catching up with you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Valentine's Day. Just get them all in now.
Thank you for letting us have this opportunity to do this. I really enjoyed this time with you.
Well, good. Well, thank you guys. And I don't know when we'll be able to have any other, community events. Okay. With the state of how things are, but just want to highlight, thank you so much for your service. There's hope.
Oh, we had another. Hey, darling.
Hi.
So they had their kids on. So yeah, she comes on all the time. She doesn't meet a stranger.
There you go.
But I encourage everybody who is watching us to reach out to you guys, follow along on social media or some of your sites. If you have any questions, reach out. Hopefully they'll able to see that you guys don't bite. You are, very down to earth and, easy, family oriented that we could talk to. So I think that's good to bring up. So often, like you said, the media can depict us different ways that are not really true. It's all about a certain mission that they may want to push through an agenda. So thank you guys so much for your time, and appreciate you being with us today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody, and thank you so much for watching. You want to say bye?
Bye.
Say bye.